I'm here today to talk about getting the deals you want in 2023. Hopefully you can all see my screen. If you cannot, please unmute and yell at me. Okay, you got a thumbs up, Mark. This is really oriented toward the freelancer who's out there today working through sales, but also how to build a repeatable sales process in their business that brings them long-term success. So we'll go ahead and just to talk briefly about some of the meeting norms. I'd love to see your faces. If you have your camera on, that's wonderful. But if you do a lot of background noise, please go ahead and mute or use your headphones or whatever. If you have questions along the way, feel free to raise your hand and I'll try to stop. And I do appreciate the chat, but sometimes I'm just focused on going through the presentation. So if I miss the chat, please bring it up at the end of, I'll reserve time for Q&A. So let's jump in. Let's have some fun. Who am I? Why am I here? Why are you listening to me? Why would you waste your time or half an hour listening to this person speak? Well, I'm an entrepreneur. I founded a company. I sold that business, so a successful exit there. I'm an early stage investor today, and I work with startup companies, especially around how they gain traction early and get sales going for themselves. I'm also a community builder. I am the founder of Teamwrkr, and as you guys probably know, this is a community for freelance professionals. You're here today because you're members of that community. Likely. And then I have over 30 years, I'm shocked to say that, but over 30 years of sales experience and marketing experience. So hopefully I can be helpful to you today to figure out what's going on in your business and help you through some of the common problems. The goals for today, just so we can lay them out here, and happy to answer other ones later on if it's not in the scope of this presentation. But the first goal is you should have a basic blueprint for success in sales and in general, the ability to transfer this to your freelance business. It's not just a sales, guideline. It's something you can take with you for the long run. You should be able to take that blueprint and map it into your current situation. Certainly it's practical. I want to make sure that everyone understands a couple of really tactical items here, including structured dialogue. We'll talk a lot about that and how that deepens business relationships. And then have ways to overcome common objections. I get questions all the time around pricing, and I want to make sure we reserve some time at the end, because even even the best trained and experienced sales oriented person sometimes can struggle with pricing. So we're going to talk about that in a tactical way at the end. So what we're not going to do today, hold on a second, what I'm not going to spend time on is how to build an Upwork profile, or get deals on Upwork, or how to create a personal brand on LinkedIn, or how many posts a week you're going to do on Instagram to get you the best deals. There's a lot of people out there in the world that do that. I consider that more on the marketing side. I also consider that to not be so sustainable or repeatable for a freelance professional, because oftentimes you're working alone. So how do you carve out time to do all that stuff and do the projects you're working on, or satisfy your customer needs, whether it be project or long run demands? So I'm not going to cover that today. Certainly, like I said, there's people in our group that do a lot of that stuff, and I encourage you to seek them if you're interested in that. My goal is to show you how, yes, you can use those tools and platforms to get the deals you want, but I think there's some better ways to do it as well. So we'll move forward. We'll plow ahead. The reason that I bring that up, though, and this is my big thinking item for the week, actually, I uncovered an interesting fact here. It says that in 2022, the average project on freelance.com was $178 US. So it means there are a lot, there's bigger and smaller, but $178. So what does that really mean for you and your business? How many of those could you do? Geez, you probably have to do a lot to make a decent living. How would you do them and compete for new projects or other work at the same time? And have you really thought about whether sites like that are oriented toward you as a freelance professional, or are they really for someone else? Maybe the person posting the job is who is their real customer. So let's think about that when you're working with anyone. Well, who's their customer? It's important to know. And I stepped back and I thought about that. I think it's a little confusing actually on some of those sites, who is actually the customer. But you might say to yourself, well, wait a minute, Phil. What sales? We're talking about sales. I thought salespeople were sort of born that way. Here's one of my favorite pictures in the world. The used car sales guy. He's out here. He's going to try to sell you this truck, and it's going to be great for you to drive away there today, right? Well, maybe that person's born that way. I'm not sure he's born wearing that suit, but is it just about schmoozing, or nobody likes a sales snake. That's what people call them sometimes. This guy's just a sales snake. And I didn't get into freelancing because I wanted to be in sales. And yeah, I totally respect that. But I think you want to think through a couple things. One is selling isn't about taking advantage of someone or tricking them to buying something. It's really about adding value through the entire engagement. And I know that everyone on the call today does that when you do your work for people. But if you think about the fact that you're going to spend some time speaking with someone in a process to gain their business, well, then you're probably going to want to add value there as well. You just really can't help but do it if you're good at your job. And so that's how this whole process really starts, thinking about the value you can bring to people. And lastly, I want you to think about, what risk do you have if you don't create a sustainable, repeatable pattern for getting and growing opportunities in your freelance business? How long could you sustain that? So it's about not only enhancing your customers' outcomes and getting to positive outcomes for them, but for you as well in your business. So that's what we'll focus on today. So we'll leave the sales snake behind. I want to lay out this blueprint for you all, and I hope that's something you can see as not just a big picture, but we're going to talk about how you can bring each element down into maybe just a single item that you're working on today. So we all know that you're going to have some clients that you're going to have for just one-time engagement. Happens to everyone all the time. Someone says, and I'll use an example in this presentation today. It's like, I want you to do 5 blog posts for me. I want you to write them, and that'll be it. And that's fine, and that's called, generally speaking, to get those accounts and get them going, that's relationship building. But you want to turn those, to be successful, you want to have repeat customers. You want to take those one-time accounts and turn to someone who does it again and again with you. That involves what I call scalable trust. We're going to dive into that as well. And then you want those to become raving fans. You want people out there, oh, that guy Mahesh, he's like the best ever. I just can't believe he's so fantastic. Phil, well, he's not so good, but Mahesh, he's great, right? So, you want those to be raving fans. What that really means is you want to deepen your connection to people, right? So this might not, I've drawn it here linearly. It doesn't mean that it's going to go that way. Sometimes you're going to have a client that jumps right to a raving fan. I hope that they do. I hope that happens to you because you're so great at what you're doing. I can say in my experience, I've had people who I've spoken with who never actually became clients of mine, but they became raving fans. Maybe they did. I had a great example here is one time I had a customer, they said, we went through a process, they were going to buy something, but they had a business problem and they ran out of budget. Just couldn't do the project. And I said, okay, that's disappointing, but there's nothing else we can do. So thank you for your time. And they said, before you go, I do have a referral for you. I want you to call someone that I know in another company that we work with. So I never even did work for them, but they said they're a raving fan. They said, go call someone else that we know. You're so good at what you do. I was like, wow, I never even did the work for you, but okay, great, right? So, and by the way, when they got their budget, they came back to us and we were able to do work for them as well. So we actually are getting 2 accounts for one, and that, if you think about it that way. But think about this as a long, some of it's linear, some will jump around, but think of this as a blueprint that you can work inside of. So let's break it down. If you're ready to go, I hope you're all ready to go. Hope you had a coffee this morning. All right, here we go. First of all, one-time clients and relationship building. This is probably one of the biggest things that I see most people who are new to sales or freelance, never done sales-oriented activities before. You want to make sure that you slow down and you understand your client's business, goals, pain points. You could put more on this list, but objections, whatever it may be. And how do you actually understand that? Well, this is where I'm going to drag you a little bit away from some of those platforms and sites like Fiverr, where you're just kind of bidding something, right? And bring you into this area where you're going to have to engage them in conversations. Now, so many conversations, they are done through, it could be a text conversation, right? Who knows? Chat, email, face-to-face is more and more rare these days, right? But, face-to-face, even on Zoom, I consider this face-to-face today, which is kind of crazy, right? But engaging in conversations about their interests, not just with what you're going to do for them, but beyond that. Take it just one level beyond, trying to understand more about their business or their goals, showing genuine interest in them as people, and not just in this 5 blog post example that we'll be using throughout this presentation today. It's not just about that, it's about what else is going on. And that's going to allow you to forge stronger relationships with them over time. As I said, they may or not ever be a client, but they're going to go ahead and give a referral because they trust you and they see value in this. So the trusting relationship begins before even discussing details about what you're going to offer. So if someone said to me, I want you to write 5 blog posts, I might back up and say, absolutely, that's something I do. Can you tell me about your business though? Help me to understand what you're doing. Maybe they're in a business that provides parts for plumbing. I don't know, but we should find that out and understand a little bit about what their business is, how that business is going. Are they growing? Are they shrinking? What's been great for them lately in their business? You know, all those things that you can ask that have nothing to do with the 5 blog posts just yet, but boy, they will over the long run. How do you do that though? How do you get involved with them? Well, here's some examples of open-ended questions. We're going to deep dive on this in a couple of minutes, but tell me about your business, or what are your personal goals for the project? That's a huge one, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I often see that people overlook that there's always a person that you're working with who, well, unless it's AI, right? Archive talking about that, right? We hope it's a person, right, on the other side of this. And, they have goals. An example, I'll never forget this one. I asked someone, hey, what happens if this, if this project doesn't go well? And they actually said, I'll be fired. And I looked at them and I said, really? And they said, yeah, really. We've had a tough go over the last couple of other folks we've worked with on this. It was a big project and it had to go well. But that's a lot of pressure. Or it could be, well, if this project doesn't go well, I won't be able to get out of here on time to go to my daughter's soccer game. Still really important, right? So you want to understand what their personal goals are for the project. Ask about risks. Hey, what happens if it doesn't come off well? Things like that. Like we just said, I got fired. Wow. This is a great one as well. Have you done this before? That helps you to understand their experience level with, hiring someone to come in and write 5 blog posts. If they've never done it before, you're probably going to have to work with them here more in the beginning to explain how this will work overall. So hopefully that gives you, well, again, we're going to deep dive on some of this and make sure that you understand it more later on, but we'll have some more of this. So what you learn from doing all this relationship building in the beginning, again, having nothing to do with your solution per se, is going to really inform the next steps here. What is the next step? Well, we talk about this building toward repeat customers all the time, taking those one-time accounts, securing them, and then turning them into repeat accounts. And I talk about that as scalable trust. That means that we have built some trust, but it can grow over time. It really can never end, right? It just keeps going and building. So, but you need to be reliable, responsive, and transparent in the process. And this is where I will tell you, I have seen so many people fail in the process of sales because they don't put the emphasis on the sales process in their freelance career, and they think that it's just all about the delivery. Well, your delivery begins the moment you engage the person on the other side of that opportunity, right? So being reliable means they can depend on you from start to finish. And like I said, from the moment you start engaging them, you have to be reliable. If you say you're going to meet them at 10 o'clock in the morning, be there at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's incredible. If you say you're going to follow up with an email, follow up with an email. It's just, I always say under promise and over deliver, right? You've probably heard that before. Don't flip it around or you're going to be in big trouble, right? Responsive. What's that emotion then that they begin to feel? They feel heard and that their needs are being met in a timely manner. We all know that if I went to Starbucks and they sat, I give them my order and then I'm waiting and then they give me the wrong order, that's not a high level of satisfaction I'm going to have. Well, I'm only spending a couple of dollars. Well, I don't here in the United States, you can spend up to $8 for a cup of coffee right now, which is kind of crazy, but okay. But that's still probably less than what you write your blog posts for, right? These blog posts cost a lot more than $8. So making sure they feel heard and the needs are being met in a timely manner is really important. This is a big one that I think we all have had negative experience with salespeople who have not been transparent, sort of like the fine print. Oh, you didn't know this could happen. Well, don't make it fine print. Be very clear about your products and services before they engage you. Tell them if you're going to need some type of contract. Tell them if you're going to need upfront payment for something. Don't be concerned about disappointing them, because what's going to happen is if you're not transparent, that's going to linger and fester and you're going to have to deal with it later on. And then they're going to be surprised. No one wants that, right? So how do you do this? Well, you control this process. That's the great part about it. We've now landed an area that you can govern all of this because you can be reliable. You can deliver on time. You can always underpromise. I'll have this to you by next Friday. Well, that's not very quick. I know, because I have some other things to do to prepare for this presentation for you today, right? So I need to make it a week out. Okay, thank you for being transparent with me. That's a great example, right? So drive the process, you own it, and that's very different than other things that happen in sales. Deliver on your promises, active listening. That's actually, you can find all kinds of great presentations, YouTube videos, and whatnot. Active listening. I encourage you guys to go look at that. Repeating back what someone said to you is a really good one to do. Make sure you respond quickly to questions or concerns. Don't let them linger. Make sure you get all the details out that you can in your approach, and maybe, like I said, contracts, things like that. Okay. And then last but not least, give the client feedback so that they understand and they continue to engage with you. So what comes from this? Well, now you've got this foundation for what I call a win-win relationship. And I'm going to divulge to you here, not divulge, I'm going to credit a long-term sales process called Miller-Hyman. Miller-Hyman there's two gentlemen. They created this whole sales process. Actually have an entire company built around it. People use this, big consulting firms and whatnot. But the whole one of the foundational elements is this thing called win-win. So many people spend time thinking in sales that there's going to be a winner and a loser because someone's going to pay me. But no, both parties will win if everybody does it right. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a minute. Last step of the blueprint is the raving fan concept. How do we get people to be raving fans, Mark? Well, you want to make sure you deepen your connection with them. I say partner for outcomes. We should not be concerned about just about this one, element of their website you're designing or the 5 blog posts that you're writing for them. That's a piece of what a longer term, bigger outcome is likely to be. Always reinforce your value to them and your values, right? So, by being transparent in the prior phase, you're able to go ahead and continue that process here, make sure they know how valuable you are and the way that you work and what your values are in the business sense. Stay focused on win-win. Make sure that you're winning and they're winning. Make sure you're coming away with something that's good for both parties. Make sure that you're going to provide quality service, but achieving your business goals. That's a topic for an entire other presentation, but I find that a lot of people who come into freelancing in the beginning, they don't actually sit down for even an hour and write down what their goals are. Your goal may be, I just want to have a side hustle freelance business versus I want to build a micro agency. Very different, right? But make sure that you have your business goals in mind. And like I said, that's probably a topic for another day, but make sure that you're achieving them in this process. You're going to give quality service to people, make sure it meets your business goals as well. How do you do it? We're going to talk a little about negotiating tactics in a minute as well, but make sure that you're efficient and fair in negotiating tactics, responding quickly, as we said earlier, and divulging things in the beginning is very important. We hope that they will as well and do all these things, and you're going to hold them accountable to do it. Value and appreciated, that's everybody, both sides of the table there. Everybody's needs are being met. What's the result then? Here's your repeat business and referrals. As I said a little bit ago, I said, let's get away from some of those sites. Yes, you might gain some one-time deals off of Upwork or something like that. Very difficult to create a sustainable business pattern there. Here, by converting people into raving fans, they're going to tell other people about you. They're going to come back to you and buy your services at it's much cheaper to sell to these folks now, right? They know you, your contracts are in place, all that upfront work's been done, right? So that's just like a business function that you don't have to pay for again, right? Let's summarize. One-time clients, build your relationship through understanding their needs and goals, engage them in dialogue and the open-ended questions. They're going to convert to a repeat customer. Again, not just linearly here, right? We might jump around a bit, gain that one-time account. It might go to repeat customer. They become raving fans quickly as well. Make sure scalable trust, like I said, delivering on your promises. You drive that process to get to that repeat account. And then the raving fan, just keep playing win-win, right? Reinforcing your value and values to them. And this is going to convert to that repeat business and the referral customer. I'm going to pause for a minute. Any questions, comments, thoughts? You can just come off mute if you want. There's only a few of us here today, so feel free. If not, I can just kind of plow through and keep going. But all right, everybody's good?
I'm just loving it. I'm just loving this, especially something you said a few slides ago, that no client comes to you just for one service. Because nowadays, you can't just say that you need a blog. You practically require a good SEO functioning website. You need so many other things. And if you build those relationships, you can really sell them on all. And the other thing just reminded me, a client came to me a few days ago for performance marketing. And I was like, what makes you think that you need performance marketing? And doing that bit of Q&A helped them realize that they don't need that service, but rather they just need to create a community and have their users in one place. And because I did that with them, I ended up saving them a lot of money right off the bat. And
Hmm.
they were more than happy to get on a contract with me right away. So yeah, I love the tips this time.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of dialogue goes a long way, or just talk to them. I mean, it's so amazing how people they just want to go like in some platform or something that's like, oh, I'll just like get my deals here. And then like, oh, why am I not getting good deals? Why am I only getting one-time accounts? Or why am I not even getting paid? Because the job went, off the rails, so to speak. It didn't go well. Well, that's probably why. Talk to people. So let's see, returning to some of the older ways of doing it might not be a bad idea. I'm going to touch briefly in this slide here about tools that you will need to do this kind of execute some of this blueprint that I'm talking about. Some of these are available in the marketplace today. Some are really simple. Some are not necessarily obvious to you. So let's just kind of go through it. One is make sure you have a system to organize your sales efforts. Some of these elements are referred to as CRM packages, customer relationship management packages, things like that. You could keep this in a spreadsheet. It doesn't really matter in the beginning, right? But make sure you have a system to organize your efforts so when you're talking to multiple people where they stand with you and what what might be closing sooner than something that's just starting in the process of selling, right? You don't want to, again, that goes to under promise and over deliver. Can't sign up to do two things on the same day, right? Make sure you have a repeatable way to stay in touch with your clients. You may send a monthly email, you may text them, you may do something, but make sure you stay in touch with people. It keeps you top of mind because their businesses are constantly evolving and changing. And if you do a great job, when you do a great job for them, they're going to want to stay in touch with you. Make sure you have an easy way to gather reviews or testimonials about your work. Those are very powerful in the sales process. Here we are in the Teamwrkr community. Make sure you surround yourself with like-minded people who can share concerns and tools and tips with you. And then ecosystem partners. I find this is a really great way to get new deals and also help with your business. You might not think of someone who might, do tax work for you, right? Oh, my tax partner over here, I have to pay my taxes. And so I have an accountant who does that. They know all kinds of other businesses as well, right? They might refer you to some of their clients. So building relationships with your ecosystem partners is equally as important. So make sure you have them out there in the world and seek them out. Let's take a moment to just kind of review and reflect here. See the sales effort as a blueprint for your success. It's not just one time or, we're selling that used pickup truck. Stop and think through what does a client look like if they're a raving fan, and how could they become that for you? This is sort of your chance to imagine the future, right? How does it map to what you're doing today? Maybe this allows you to think about where your struggles are and where you're being really successful. And what are the tools that you're using? Things like community and the ecosystem partners you just mentioned. Going back to the blueprint for now, we're going to segue this momentarily because one of the things that I mentioned earlier and I get asked often about are open-ended questions. And this is, it's tactical in some ways, but it's really important to go through them. So I'm going to pause here. Anybody questions at all right now? I'm off mute. Anything? Okay, doing good. Open-ended questions then. Let's jump into a few of these that allow you to engage your customer in this conversation and also learn what you need to learn in order to be successful in the deal you're going to strike with them. Oh, my favorite slide of the entire presentation. I mean, just take a moment and admire that pepperoni pizza.
It looks beautiful, man.
Isn't that wow? It's sort of striking. I can think of, a beautiful sunset or a pizza, these are all things I think about. So the reason I bring this up though, and it's only, for me, it's only 10:30 in the morning, so I can't go to pizza yet, I guess. But here's two ways to think about questions. You could ask me, Phil, would you like to have pizza for lunch today? Now you probably know by what I just told you that I'll say yes to that. So that's great, right? But if you don't know me so well, or maybe you don't know that, I don't know, I had a big breakfast or something like that. This question could very easily be answered with a yes or a no, right? It's just closed. We call that a closed-ended question. Would you like to have pizza for lunch today, Phil? No. Okay, where do you go with that? That's okay, right? So how about if we ask it a different way though? What if we said, hey, Phil, what would you like to have for lunch today? Now, first of all, there's some great embedded elements of this question. First of all, it implies that you're interested, that implies, it tells me you're interested in me. You're interested in my lunch. This is incredible. Wow, great. Thanks for asking. So already we're building rapport. Also, then this is open-ended because I said, well, I don't know. I had pizza last night, so I'm probably going to have to get salad for lunch today or something like that, right? So now you're able to react to that and go, oh, okay, yeah, I was really hoping for pizza. Well, we could go to that place that has both salads and pizza. Right now we're building this together rather than having, nope, I don't want pizza for lunch today. Okay. So making sure that you could use this technique to build your questions and still get the answer you want to hear. Well, not maybe not the one you want to hear, but rather get answers to questions you need to get the answers to so you can be successful with your customer. So let's dig in. And I that's a pun implied because I was digging into that pizza right now. I know it's like 10:30 in the morning, but I would dig into it. Bye pizza. So open-ended questions. Let's start with building rapport. So that's building that general feeling where we're working with each other and we know something about each other, both professionally and personally, and we're leading to good outcomes. So, what would make this a great meeting for you today? Challenging to do, by the way, in an environment like this where I have multiple people on the call with me. But if you do engage more than one, allow everyone to have a chance to speak to that issue. Why are you here? Kind of questions. Why would you take this call with me? How did you ever get involved in this project? Boy, that's a great one. That's one of my favorites. Well, how'd you get this project? And you find out, well, because there's nobody else in our company who wanted to do it, or something like that. Oh, wow, this could be challenging, right? So you find, what's the priority? What's your most important priority? Why? Why is it? So those are some rapport building questions. As you go through that process, now there's some interesting ones you can ask that are going to yield results for you when you're thinking about qualifying this opportunity. So when I say qualifying, it means, where should I be slotting this? Where should I be thinking about this in my business flow? Is this something I'm really going to want to take on? It's really important to be, attentive to this, or is this something, well, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do a great job for them, right? So let's find out. What's preventing you from reaching your objectives? Well, I got to write these 5 blog posts. So what's preventing you from doing that right now? We don't have enough people. Oh, okay. You can see that would give you an example of, well, we don't have enough people. Is you could ask another question. Well, geez, have you ever then worked with a freelancer like me before? Now you're starting to understand what their process is in their business just by asking a qualifying open-ended question, right? What's been working for you with this process? What has not been working? You'll find out so much about the tools they're using. Maybe like, oh, we've been using WordPress for this, but it's got a problem with this blog thing. We got to get it fixed on our website. So already you're getting so much information just asking an open-ended question. I'll just give you a few more here. How about, this is probably one of my favorite ones. I learned this from a great mentor of mine. And you can ask this multiple ways. Hey, if you had all the time and money in the world and you could just make the decision today, what would you change? What would you do? That's, and it doesn't take you long to get there. I mean, I've asked that question in the first 5 minutes of speaking to someone. You can just tell by their demeanor, maybe like, oh, I'm really busy. Okay, well, calm down here. What if we just eliminate time and money for a second, and you could just make this decision on your own? What would you do? And they will just tell you so much information about what their goals and all that are. And we'll talk about pricing conversations in a moment or two here, because again, that's a big issue for people. But I like to take money off the table very quickly. Sometimes I'll say something like, well, we know it's not going to be $1 and it's not going to be $1 million, right? It's in between those two. So now we've set the boundaries, right? So we'll be able to negotiate that later. Let's talk about things like time and other factors that are going to be important to you. So that's a good one. Things like, what have I not covered so far that you'd want to know more about, et cetera, et cetera. And like I said earlier, we are recording this conversation today, this presentation today. So definitely we'll be posting this to our YouTube channel later, so you can come back and catch these questions, of course. And generally a lot of these are available out online as well. I'm only listing some of them that I've used in the past. And I do keep a list, by the way. I keep a list of these questions. I'm not superhuman. I forget this stuff all the time. And so I just keep a list.
I have my own list too. I do that. Yeah.
Great. Awesome to hear. So, more of them then, as you go through the qualifying process, you can now begin to address their concerns. How's this going so far? What do you're thinking about making a change here, especially if they're not just adding you on, maybe they're replacing someone else with, or maybe someone's leaving their company and they need to have you come in and help quickly. What's the other concerns about making that change? other areas you want to discuss, that's a great one. I should say, because that opens up other opportunities for you. So yeah, you can see some of these as well. This is a good one, how you evaluating different options that describes maybe competition. Remembering sometimes the biggest competition actually out there in the world is that people do nothing. They just don't do the project. It's probably one of the biggest competitors I've ever seen. We're going to wait. So make sure you understand that those barriers for going forward. And then the last one is really what we call about closing. This is where you're asking them really to place the order with you, or to authorize you to proceed. What haven't I answered yet? I actually had this happen one time where I was face to face with someone. It was a fairly sizable contract. I actually asked, what questions that do you have that I haven't answered yet? And they said, no, I think you've answered them all. And I said, okay. And I just went silent for a moment, and they said, well, how do we get started? And I said, you signed the contract. And they did, right? But there's just, people need to be coached through some of these things. They're not always experienced like you guys are. This is a great one. Hey, if this is going to happen, how's this going to work out for you personally? Oh, it's going to be awesome because I'm going to get into my daughter's soccer game tonight. Right? Perfect. Okay. Winning for everybody. Bottom line questions. What else can I do to help you finalize the decision? These are all just really open-ended questions they should respond to. If they say, well, there's nothing else you can do. Okay, then they have, if they're being honest, then that's great. You've done your job. So to fill, I always have to negotiate the price of the client at some point, right? Like if you haven't, I will pause here for a minute. If you have never had to negotiate price, raise your prices. Okay. Keep moving your prices up. I always say in sales, especially when I get no, that's great, because now I can begin to talk about things with them, right? If they say yes to everything, I should probably consider my pricing model or something, right? I'm really being probably too aggressive, right, in terms of pricing. So if yes, you're going to have to negotiate price, and you're going to be you're going to be in a better position to do so, stronger position to do so if you use the techniques we just talked about. The blueprint and the open-ended questions bring you now to this last discussion, which is around price. I want to say, I don't always reserve it for last. Sometimes it comes up in the beginning. Address it when you need to. But sometimes it's helpful to also say, again, well, it's going to be between $1 and $1 million. So why don't we clarify the rest of this and get everything done before we have to actually, finish up that conversation. And you're going to have to define it more tightly, right? I mean, it's, no one thinks they're going to spend $1 million for 5 blog posts. If you find that account, I would keep it. Right? Yeah, defend it. Write those blog posts. I'll help you. I'll just do it for $500,000 for you, right? So
for you, Phil, I'm happy to do it for 1 million.
Oh, great. Oh, thanks, Arka.
Yeah, for you, only for you.
Oh, okay. Special deal for me. Okay. So anyway, yeah, you're good. I don't, sometimes price, you do want to obviously qualify. Pricing will come up along the way, but I wouldn't let it be the barrier in the beginning. Because again, you could take it off the table by just being transparent. If they're like, oh, we're never going to pay more than $100 for these 5 blog posts, you're probably going to hang up, right? I mean, it's just that's not going to work, right? But because you asked, let's talk about some of the common objections and negotiating tactics that you can use to overcome them. And I'll break them out here for you guys. I think there's 4 or 5 common themes that I run into all the time. One is you're a baseball fan, it's going, gone. It's a home run out of the park, right? The person buying from you says, I'm going to talk to someone else later about this. And if they give me a cheaper price or a better price, then I'm going to go with them. And what it really means, of course, is that there's somebody else out there that they might be talking to. But the question is, I don't like to use the word bluffing, but it sounds like a card game or something. I'm bluffing. But it might be more posturing than true fact. They might be having someone else tell them, make sure we're getting the best price. Someone you can't see in their company yet, right? Is really, oh, no, I have to get the best price for it. You have to get the best price for it. So just ask them directly then and sell value. Well, remember what we talked about early on. This is how I'm going to proceed. I've been very transparent with you all along the way here, right? Why is this coming up now? Did something change? Go back and ask some more open-ended questions. That's the first one going on. Next one, to sharpen your pencil. I don't know if you guys have that Arkai or Mahesh in your culture there, but we always have pencils you had to sharpen. We don't have we have mechanical pencils now, right? Yeah, you have to sharpen pencils. So it's like, okay, put a finer point. So you're gonna have to. They might say something like, "You need to do better than this," and that's a technique that is usually applied to, set up a process that we're going to negotiate the price later. But if it does come up, you're gonna have to sharpen your pencil. Then that does give you the opportunity to talk about price right then and there. They open the door, so step through it, right? Why would I have to sharpen my pencil? What are you seeing that I'm not giving you now that would get me to this price point? What else could I do for you? What's value do you need from me, right? So that again gives you this opportunity. They open it up, they want to talk about it, great. Take advantage of that. Next one is sort of the split the difference. I can get this signed today if you give me this one concession here, or, do something for me and just meet me in the middle, right? They want to take advantage that you're eager to close the deal and get something from you. Now, first of all, never put yourself in that position, because if you're constantly trying to close the deal, people sense that. And unfortunately, in this world, there are people who try to take advantage of you, right? So you need to have lots of deals in your pipeline. So just keep working it and working, especially early on in your freelance career. Make sure that you just keep attending to that sales pipeline, and it's going to yield results. Because if you have something else going on, they're trying to really, squeeze out a final concession from you. You can just say no, right? That's easy. But I would just say, what is this thing you want from me? And this is an opportunity for you then to say, okay, well, I know you wanted 5 blog posts at this one, price point. What if we expanded to be 10 over the course of the next 2 months, something like that? You know what I mean? And you might be able to get something that's more beneficial to your business, and make sure that they're throwing one last thing at you doesn't mean it's a negative for you. And the last one, the cherry picking. This is one of my favorites. People try this all the time, and it's really not it's not good, because it creates a bad feeling, but you can turn into a positive one. Oh, I know that we were going to pay you $1,000 for these 5 blog posts, or whatever it is, $1 million for the 5 blog posts. But I know you were going to discount it based upon 5, but I really just need the first one for that same price, that discounted price. They're trying to unbundle on you, right? They're trying to say, oh, I know we negotiated all this other stuff, but just give me one for that price. I think this is really about transparency, right? This is making sure that anything that you tell them that you could do is based upon something, right? I'm basing my price upon these 5 posts, this volume of work, or that's going to be done by next week, or that you'll pay me up front, or something like that, right? So you have all those opportunities to go back to them and say, okay, wait a minute, you're, changing this on me now. That means I get a chance to change. Everyone's equal. Everyone's playing win-win in all of these scenarios. Make sure you draw it back to that. Oh, you want to change that? Okay, then I'll probably have to change this. And you'll see if they go, okay, that's fine. We'll just do it this way. Great. Then everyone's played, a game that everyone's winning. Okay, so I want to make sure we all do that. Any questions on pricing, negotiations, comments, other things you've seen? Happy to jump in on that.
I've heard to rate to give your price according to what you're uncomfortable with asking for, and that's what you offer. Because a lot of us are, especially starting out, we're scared to scare away the customer, but it's always good to reach out and just do what you're just a little uncomfortable with, so that you can get more comfortable with being at that price range.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great word that you use, scared, Brandon. That, we're all scared of things in life. And the one thing that someone taught me early on was, I would say, well, I'm scared of presenting this pricing to them. And they said, well, you're not really scared of presenting pricing. You would do that if you were confident, right? Yeah, I probably would. Then what you're scared of is that you're going to lose the deal, right? So they set me straight on this. I'll never forget this. My boss was a sales manager. He looked at me and said, Phil, you don't have a deal. There's no deal to lose here, because they haven't signed a contract yet. So the mindset, right? Okay, wait a minute. going back though, and I love this one, don't be scared about it. It's hard not to be because you're just starting out. You want to get these deals, you want to get your career moving and make some money. You could kind of come back to that, come back to what we talked about early on. If you're asking open-ended questions, what's your budget for this? You didn't ask them to bid against themselves. You didn't ask them to divulge what they'll spend with you. But if they say, well, our whole marketing budget is blank, or a budget, we have a lot of work we're doing on our website now, so we don't have a lot to devote to this. You'll start to get an idea about where that might be. I do like this. You know, you do have to plan your business, know what you can afford to go to the market with, you know, in terms of your pricing. And like I said, then get to that first no, right? This isn't a no. What I've shown you here are just like negotiating things, right? They didn't tell me no. So you can go ahead and work through these processes. If they just say, we will not do it for that price, then you're allowed to ask them, what is the price you would do it for, right? And then you can make a business decision. So that's a great word though. I mean, that's, hopefully we're going to take some of that being scared out of it, right? Planning, process, trusting the process. I can imagine, you know, anyone who's doing something for the first time, we all know how hard that is. Very scary. So just, you know, practice it. And I'm happy, by the way, I'm happy to jump on calls with you guys. If you're like, oh, Phil, I'm struggling with this process here with someone, I can't get them to buy this, or I just want to practice this. I'm happy to do that as well. So feel free to message me.
Imposter syndrome comes up a lot. So yeah, that's definitely something I'm working through. And I know a lot of the other people that I know starting out is working through the same thing.
Yeah. Am I qualified enough to do this job? Am I qualified enough to charge these rates? That type of stuff. Yeah. That's good. I mean, that's not good. It's good to hear it. But I think the more practice we have, better we're going to be, right? Just like anything else. The first time I tried to hit a baseball or kick a soccer ball, whatever you did, riding a bike, nobody does it the first time really well. They all have to have help along the way. So, you know, practicing it. And also, like I said, knowing your business, and you just, sometimes you're like, I just can't do it for that price. And that's a powerful position to be in sometimes. I just can't do it for that. Sometimes in this world, you have to look at someone and say, well, how much, you know, I'm only making so much money doing this. How much of my $1, $2, $3, $4 do you want me to give to you? You know, there's only so much margin necessarily. So it's always helpful to have your business plan in mind.
Yeah, and that's an educational moment in itself, just getting, you know, understanding, you know, even though I'm just starting out, that's not something that I can do for that price, you know, to know what you're worth.
Yeah. I think the starting out thing is interesting. You may be starting out in your own way as a freelancer, starting your own business, but it's likely you're bringing some experience with you, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, me in particular, I've been doing this for over 2 years, but because I haven't had retainer clients or have like a steady paycheck coming in, I still feel like I'm starting out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I like to turn that into a positive, you know, adopt the beginner mindset to everything, right? So if I'm feeling nervous, I'm like, okay, well, let's learn about this then, right? You know, again, I got involved in doing this community stuff maybe a year and a half ago, and I knew nothing about starting a community and inviting people into it and all that. And boy, I was nervous. You know, I was like, how's this gonna work? You know, but you know, it seems to be going okay. So I love that point. I think I just encourage you to use like this blueprint here and trying to think about going back. Like if you've done this for 2 years now, you have people you've worked with, obviously you're making a living doing this. So you can try to convert those folks in that repeat business, you know, and drive those relationships. So it's great to hear you. It's going well enough that you're still doing it 2 years into it, Brendan. Yeah. Actually, I think that's it. I actually just reserve time here for Q&A. I'll stop the share. Any other comments, thoughts, questions I can answer for you guys? Happy to do it. Okay, yes, Archive question.
Yes, I have one question. So the things you discussed, they're extremely important, but the thing where I truly struggle is the initiation of reaching out to these people, especially right now. I want to focus right now on me as a freelance coach, because I've coached over 15,000 people for the past 4 or 5 years now. And now I'm trying to reach out to more collaborators, more experts, and always feel like I've never felt this with clients. Like when I want to reach out to a client, I know how to have those conversations going. But when I'm reaching out to other creative professionals in the industry, I always have some sort of hesitance. I don't know if it's the lack of assurance, or is that because I'm not that involved with them most of the time. I do have a network, but they're mostly like in the top tier ones. But now I'm trying to connect with the current growing influencers who already have a network, who have their own circles, and to build those relationships. So I would love to know, how do you suggest I reach out to these people and build those conversations? Because as you know, for me, relationship building is extremely important. And if I can get those initial conversations and get them on a 15-minute meeting with me, that's it. Then they're sold.
Yeah, yeah. This is a great question. I can think of two things that I've struggled with this as well. I mean, in my career, everybody does, because you probably build out your own comfort zone. You get to this point, you're like, oh, I'm happy doing this, but I'd love to get in touch with a broader audience, let's say, or someone over here who's a really like an incredibly talented person, and they're maybe more well known or something. So there's a couple things. One is there's a great blog. Well, it's a podcast actually. The gentleman's name is Tim Ferriss, Ferris. And he's like an optimizer kind of person. Like he does a lot of stuff like, he has people on all the time that are like, if you sleep 8 hours and then wake up and drink coffee half an hour after waking and putting sunlight on your face, it'll be a better, they have all these like techniques and stuff they do, right? So the optimizer, like to call them. But he actually spent some time. He actually taught a class, I think, at Princeton University. I think it was one of the classes he taught, and he actually walk people through a process of doing just this, which is getting in touch with people and trying to get an audience with them, right? Who might be a little bit more senior to you. Definitely a couple things. One is most of those people are very interested in not in tactical items, but in broadening their sphere as well, right? So you think about it that way, that they're not interested in just, they want to partner for positive outcomes. They're not into transactions. Right. So first thing, when you take that mindset to it, think about something that you'll have that will bring a positive outcome for them and their other people they know as well, because that's building their network too. Right. So that's one. And check out the Tim Ferriss podcast on this. I'd have to. It was early on in his career. The guy he's probably he's one of the most downloaded podcasts on the whole podcast scene out there. They measure it, but like literally millions of podcast listeners a month. That's incredible. He's got an email list that's like, it's like 1 million emails that goes out every week. You can subscribe to it. He has one called 5 Bullet Friday. Again, he's like, try this matcha drink and you're going to feel much better. It's stuff like that. It's a little bit quirky and wonky, but he does, because of his investigation to sort of how people are high achievers, this has come up. So one is that he spends a lot of time talking about how, and I think it's very worthwhile, how to craft an email to them. Because you can get their email addresses. You can also link into these people. A lot of people are on these platforms. I would not be concerned. I would just take the time to think about how you might help them, and then go for the big ask. And that's one of the biggest things I've ever, ask for that call. I'd love to spend 15 minutes with you if you could give it to me, right? This is what I think that I can bring to your group of people. Great. If you have a referral as well, if someone's like, I know someone in your network, I know this person, and they would give you a positive kind of review, I would definitely use that too. So reaching out via email is a really great way to do it, because it's not intrusive, right? They get it, they can see it, they can think about getting back to you. They're often very busy as well. So if they're smart, they're gonna respond to emails in batches, right? They're not going to respond to every email that comes in every second. They're probably looking at it once or twice a day, maybe probably twice a day. So it could take you a week to hear back from them. Hopefully that helps. So listen to that Tim Ferriss podcast, craft a good email with a good story in it about how you're going to influence them. And then this is a sales technique though, right? You're like asking open-ended questions with them, trying to figure that out. You can do that in your email as well, so hopefully that helps.
Absolutely, it does. Because my biggest challenge always has been that it's never been this with clients, but when I'm trying to reach out to some of my peers and everyone that I don't know yet, it either feels like there's some sort of power balance always in play, which shouldn't always be. But in the creative industry, especially with designers, it's just kind of inbound. I have no idea why. But so it always feels like, there's someone who is on the top or on the bottom. And I don't really like having conversations in that manner where either I'm being seen as someone like, oh yeah, I'm helping you out, or that, okay, I need your help, because I feel like that always damages the relationship. And it's only with a few people where it's been easy to do that. And when you mentioned this, it reminded me of how I've been able to connect with other creatives through engaging with their content by putting out comments on their posts, or just reacting with their stories and just replying funny shit. And by doing that, we ended up connecting better. So
yeah, I think that's great. And like I said, social media engagement is another great way to do it. I think spending some time, I'll try to find that link to that Tim Ferriss podcast and I'll send it over to you as well. But it was early on in his career, but he was like taught this class, and he's forced these, college age students, 18, 19-year-old kids really, to try to get in touch with someone who was very senior, you want to get a job at such and such a company, email the CEO. They're like, I can't do that. I'm like, yes, you actually can. It's a human being, this person, like, oh, if you again aren't like, I just want to get a job at your company, please. Yeah, they'll be like, no, that I have HR people for that, right? Recruiters. So that's the methodology. But well, if you guys have any other questions, please, I'm here to do it. I'm also conscious of everybody's time today.
My strategy for getting clients is cold emailing mostly right now. So I reach out to, and this is just like a general for everybody to hear, in case they are interested in doing it this way. But I've had a lot of success in getting really good open rates on my cold emails and stuff. I am having trouble getting responses, but as far as like finding the CEO's emails and stuff, there's an app, hunter.io. You can use it on your Chrome, Google Chrome. You just add it to it, and then you go to the website, and then it'll bring up all of the email addresses, and you can tell like which ones, because usually they have like an info at whatever the website is, and that's usually not the web or the email address that you want to use if you want to get to the higher ups that are gonna, that your job is going to be dependent on contacting. So use hunter.io to find it'll usually be like a name. It'll be like the name of the owner and at, whatever. So you can find the email addresses very easily through that. And then just start out with like find like an accomplishment that business has made recently, and then just to let them know that this isn't a spam email. You're legitimately going, you're doing your research to get to know this business that you're reaching out to. Give them a little compliment about the whatever accomplishment they've been doing, and then you can kind of get into just like a short little, this is what I do, this is what I've seen on your website that I could I think that by doing this and this, you could get more traffic, more engagement and stuff like that. I'd love to be able to hop on a call with you, a quick, free 15-minute, call to just see what we can do to build, our relationship and get you more engagement. I've had a lot of good open rates on those, and also a good subject line. Something I usually like to use something humorous just to get them smiling. If you can disarm somebody with a smile and a laugh, they're much more willing to see what you have to say. So
Yeah.
just thought I'd offer that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, you made me think of it here, is ask for help, right? I think that's a big one. If you're starting out, it worked for me so well in my last company. I would just cold email. Yes, I would use those techniques, trying to find the right email address and things like that. And then cold email and just say, I'm trying to make, trying to build a business in this space here, and I need some help doing it. Would you be willing to talk to me for 15 minutes? Entrepreneur to entrepreneur, or business builder to business builder, right? That all of a sudden now, if I got that email, I'd be like, oh, what's going on, Archive? Oh, what's going on, Brandon? Oh, I would read that,
Yeah, that's another way to disarm them, honestly. I haven't really thought about that, but yeah, that's a really good way to let them know that you're not trying to come off as a know-it-all, but you're willing to be in their corner, and hopefully they can be in your corner.
Right. There's that win-win thing, right?
Yeah.
I basically just ask for your help. Remember I said, Archives, like ask a big ask, could I have 15 minutes of your time to talk to you about this problem, this blank problem that I'm having, right? Yeah. Whatever it is, and they're, I would say most senior level people get something like that. They're either going to say, no, I can't do it. They're going to say, I'll do it. Yes. Or no, I can't, but this other person in my company can.
Yeah.
Right. And now you're really building up through that. So yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Great stuff. Great stuff today, guys. Appreciate it.
I'd like to add something, if that's all right.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah. No, because I heard Brandon say that he has a lot of open rates, but the conversion rates may be something that's getting affected. So I don't sell a lot of cold emails because I'm just someone who hasn't done that a lot, but I do send I do send emails to leads and everything that I don't know just yet. And what you're doing is amazing. What I would suggest is using some platform like Clap or Loom. Clap is really amazing as well. It's much more better than features. But what I do is, let's say, everything you mentioned, like, things that is messed up on their website, like you're solving a problem for them. Just mention those things via video and even point them out via video. So what I do is I get on a call and then I'm recording myself and their website or wherever I've noticed a problem. If it's something like they need to redesign the website. So I literally just record and show them like, hey guys, so I really love your company. And then I came across you guys on AppSumo. And some things I noticed on your websites were that, these paras over here, while they might sound great in terms of keywords, no client will be able to make sense of these things. So you're using a lot of SEO words, but it's in a way jargon. What I would suggest is if you can improve these while having your brand tone conveyed, as well as use these SEO keywords in a way where it smoothly comes in, that'd be really amazing. And if you'd like, I'd be excited to help you with this. And if you send these videos,
I use Loom actually. I've never used it for that particular, but that's a great idea. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. I love that one because you're providing value right away.
Exactly.
Yes, and it makes it personal.
Free.
Yeah.
It's free. And if I got that, I'm like, what? I would at least be like, if it was just me doing it, I'd be like, wait a minute, I should probably like pay attention to this. Number one, do they have a point? Do they have a point? Two, it would encourage me to if I have somebody else working on that with me in my company, I would at least say, hey, take a look at this. What do you think of this? You're already getting to that value, that value play that is so much more important than I can do this for $100. He's breaking out of that. So that's great. That's awesome. That's great to pair all that up, asking for help and helping you right away. So,
I've even had a mentor recommends, or not recommend, but to say that at one point, just for fun, he really wanted to work with a client, so he cold emailed them and he said, how about we do a little I forgot what he said, but basically like I'll write an email for you, and then you write whatever, you send out whatever email you were going to send out for this product or whatever it is, and let's have a competition. If mine gets more traction and engagement, let's talk and see what we can do. And he ended up getting a good job out of that. So
that's another great one. I think I can do this better. Here's how. So that's the I'll leave you this thought. I have so many of these little, Archive probably knows this as well. So I have all these like little things stuck in my head over 30 years to do this and I didn't make these up. I'm just standing on the shoulder of giants, or these are people that did it before and they taught me how to do it, right? So humbly, I thank them. What in sales, somebody said there's two things: so what and prove it. Okay? So the first one is, well, so what? Well, so what? You're trying to launch a product. Are you trying to, so what? That's pretty obvious. And so what here? And prove it. If I get better results from my email, then I've proved it, right? So these are great things. And you can do these things like either through the Loom video, like you said, where you're sitting there and analyzing something for them, or doing 100 or whatever emails and showing them proof that you can do it better. These are great things we can do in today's world that you couldn't do before because it's too expensive to do that. You had to kind of, wait until they paid you something. But I think now it's a great way to do it. So, well, I really appreciate you guys coming today to this. I hope it was helpful. And as always, I appreciate your membership in our community. We're always looking to add people that can be helpful to all of us. So if you know somebody else who would benefit from joining the group, please pass on the information. This will get cleaned up and posted to our YouTube channel. So like I said, you can go catch those questions and all that big long list of questions went out there. And if you need more information, you know where to find me. You can DM me in the Slack group.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much, guys. And I will see you guys in Slack.